Hey everyone, me Kevin here. I am shocked what kind of law Texas has just implemented in terms of basically the bounty hunting that it now enables. It is crazy. In this video, we're going to break down the new law in Texas that bans abortions after 6 weeks. We're not so much going to do a Roe v. Wade debate here, since I know I have audience members on both sides of the abortion debate, but we're going to talk about the actual mechanics of this law and how crazy it really is. And if you need some espresso, make sure to go to metkevin.com/coffee. And you could get Leet coffee, just $13.37 coffee. It's strong and rich espresso coffee. Check it out, or see the other options at bankrollcoffee.com. But go to metkevin.com/coffee to see the $13.37 version, or navigate there from Bankroll Coffee. All right, folks, let's get into the topic. So, we had a vote in the Supreme Court late last night of 5-4, and the decision was not to block an abortion bill in Texas that basically skirts 50 years of legal precedent following Roe v. Wade. That is, Texas engineered a law and passed it banning abortions after 6 weeks, despite the fact that in 1973, Roe v. Wade declared a woman's right to abortion a constitutional right. Now, it's worth noting, just to clear this up, again, we're not going to get deep into the abortion debate, but it's worth noting a lot of folks look at states like California and say, oh my gosh, liberals want to kill babies. It's worth noting the abortion laws in California are such that a woman can choose to have an abortion up to a baby's viability. Now, a baby's viability is generally somewhere between 18 to 23 weeks. And this is a big difference because between 18 and 23 weeks, these are usually the times where women get anatomy scans for their babies to make sure the baby is healthy. The babies are tested. The baby, until essentially the 23rd, 24th week, can't survive on its own yet. So that's usually the cutoff for abortions. Then the only time you would have late-term abortions after that is if carrying the child would kill the mother, for example. So, and that's just an example in California. Every state has different laws around exactly this. Now, the 6-week cutoff is really interesting because a lot of women don't actually know that they're pregnant by 6 weeks, especially women who don't have regular periods because they have PCOS or for some other reason. And quite frankly, even if you miss your period and got tested, you might already be 5.5 weeks pregnant. Because when you're deemed pregnant, they seem to add on a week. So even if you have perfectly timed periods and you test, they seem to tell you you're already 5 weeks pregnant, even though you're 4 weeks past, missing. But anyway, that gets complicated. So 6 weeks is pretty restrictive, and 6 weeks is picked as the moment where a heartbeat begins in sort of the embryo or baby at that point. The Texas law says that if a heartbeat is detectable, an abortion cannot be conducted. So that 6 weeks is could be a little bit earlier, could be a little bit after. 85 to 90% of abortions happen after 6 weeks because 6 weeks is just so darn early. So this effectively bans abortions in Texas. Almost all abortions are effectively banned in Texas. And it skirts these Supreme Court laws that we've had and the ultimate decision of Roe v. Wade back in 1973 by really enabling a law that says, hey, no abortions after 6 weeks. And the mechanics of the law are really quite odd. See, rather than criminalizing doing an abortion after 6 weeks, Texas law deputizes individuals to civilly sue anyone who assists or aids or abets in an abortion. So that excludes the patient. So if a patient says, I'm going to have an abortion anyway, they can't get sued. But anyone else, anywhere in the country or potentially, I don't think the world, probably somewhere in the country, could decide to sue any individual, staff member, Uber driver, counselor, or anyone who helped pay for the procedure or helped somebody get to the procedure or whatever. Anyone in the United States could sue those doctors, staff, Uber drivers, or whatever. And they could claim up to $10,000 and legal fees, basically meaning individuals in the United States can now sue anyone in Texas who potentially helps someone in Texas get an abortion and get up to $10,000 per case plus their legal fees back. Like, this is going to be a pretty unprecedented minefield for doctors, staff, Uber drivers. I mean, like, what's an Uber driver supposed to do? Like, you look more than 6 weeks pregnant and you're going to a doctor's office? Yeah, I ain't taking you. Like, that's scary. Anyone who advises, for example, hey, like, you should have an abortion for medical reasons or because you were raped or because of incest or whatever, you should go to a different state. That person who advises that can now get sued for $10,000 plus legal fees. And anybody could sue them. Like, if you're watching this in New York City or you're in Washington, you could literally sue somebody that you suspect is advising somebody or helping somebody get an abortion in Texas and win $10,000 plus legal fees. Like, the abortion debate is one thing that I'm not going to go down the rabbit hole of or take a stand on in this video. But this law is really weird, especially since doctors who end up getting sued have to disclose to hospitals and for their license renewals that they were sued for potentially aiding or abetting in an abortion. And even if their case is dismissed, they still have to disclose that they were sued for potentially aiding or abetting an abortion. Like, this is a great way to scar the reputations of a lot of potential doctors. I mean, basically anybody going near anything with abortions probably going to get sued like crazy. And what's even more kooky about this law is if you lose the lawsuit as somebody who just sues from, let's say, New York or whatever. Let's say you sue from New York. You sue a doctor. And you're like, I'm going to sue you because I suspect you helped somebody do an abortion in Texas. If you lose, you do not have to pay the other person's attorney fees. So you don't have to pay the doctor's attorney's fees. So if you're a doctor, or I'm sorry, if you're an attorney, let's say in New York, and you just want to sue like crazy, and that doctor has to hire an attorney to defend themselves, and you totally falsely alleged, made allegations in a lawsuit, you do not have to reimburse the doctor for their legal fees. But if the doctor loses and you win, you get your legal fees covered. It's the craziest law I feel like I've ever seen. It's very, very, very one-sided against basically the entire abortion industry. The way this is written, this law, is basically saying if you even utter the word abortion in Texas, you're going to get sued. Again, staff members, doctors, Uber drivers, counselors, anybody just saying, hey, you should go out of state to get an abortion. Hey, we'll help you get out of state. Hey, we'll help pay for your travel to get out of state. Lawsuit, 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 lawsuit. I think if this law ends up standing, there are literally going to be law firms who just all day long sue anyone related to the abortion industry in Texas. It's insane. Now, again, not going into the arguments here on Roe v. Wade, life begins at conception versus viability and that debate. But it's worth mentioning that back in the 60s, people used to do, when abortion was illegal, people used to do their own abortions and they would die because they're using coat hangers or crazy things or whatever, trying to give themselves abortions. You had back alley abortions. You had people going to other countries to try to get abortions. Crazy, crazy, crazy things here. And this law is very wild in terms of how far it goes to try to protect essentially the embryo or baby in preventing anybody from being involved in this abortion industry. So now you did have Chief Justice John Roberts say that this was very unprecedented, especially since you're basically delegating the enforcement of this law not to police officers, but to any person, like a bounty hunter. Kagan also criticized the law for rushing, or criticized the decision for rushing the decision without having full argumentation on both sides. You also had Biden respond, calling this an assault on women's rights, and he's looking at all options that the United States federal government could take to respond to this abortion ruling in Texas. There are concerns that now other states throughout the country, especially red states, could just copy and paste this Texas law. You had Sotomayor. She was very upset, in her opinion, wondering why the justices who were for this Texas law only wrote a one-paragraph decision. She suggested that they were essentially sticking their heads in the sand, found it ridiculous that complete strangers could inject people or could inject themselves into other people's lives for a $10,000 reward. She referred to this as bounty hunting as well. And yeah, wow. I think where we stand at this point is really that you could potentially have Congress pass a law around abortion to try to streamline this, because that would be your sort of check and balance, is having a law that's passed by Congress and then a law signed by Joe Biden. And this could compel the Supreme Court to potentially reverse a kind of law like this or block a law like this. But this is a big shift. And the $10,000 bounty hunting, very, very bizarre application of a new law. So this kind of gives you a breakdown of everything that's going on around this abortion issue. Hopefully you appreciated these sorts of insights. If you like this kind of content, make sure to subscribe to the video. It gives me a heads up that you like this kind of content. If you need life insurance, make sure to go to metkevin.com/lemonade. You can actually get renter's insurance, pet insurance, homeowner's insurance, life insurance. Check it out, metkevin.com/lemonade. Do invest in the stock as well. And folks, we'll see you in the next one. Thanks for watching.